Hey Larry, this is Jim Wohlgemuth with Harvey. We're sitting here, hoping that you're okay and figuring, has he been let off in handcuffs? So give us a call or try and get on the Zoom or
Text us or whatever.
yeah, and let us know if you're okay. All right. Hope to talk to you soon. Okay, take care. Bye. Well, here we go.
So today is his first day was like 31st, Easter.
Yeah.
So this is ninth day fasting.
I mean, I just can't imagine that because I can't go 9 hours
I
without,
can't skip a meal.
no, I can't. In fact, I got to get a snack in between.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, my blood sugar, I can feel it start to tank. I'm thinking, uh-oh, better run, get a piece of bread or something. Here he comes. Here he comes. Here he comes.
Okay.
Let's hope.
Oh,
Hey,
Okay,
Larry,
Larry. Nice.
look at you. This is
Love
great.
the headpiece there. Is that a kafir?
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate it. Sorry, I got caught up trying to make plans.
Not a problem. How you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. Definitely need to sit today. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, we were supposed to talk to you yesterday, but we got waylaid by Walter Reed. What happened?
Yeah, so I finally heard back from my um, wing commander, and I was ordered to get within 24 hours a medical evaluation or contact my PCM. So I went in, they did like the got my vitals and did the blood work, your analysis, and mental health evaluation, and then yeah, they kept me for about 8 hours,
Wow.
and yeah, finally go.
What was the result of the mental evaluation?
They said I was cleared. That's all they could say.
Uh,
Okay.
all right. Based
Doing
based on
that.
what's going on internationally, I'm thinking whoever isn't with you is probably in need of a mental evaluation.
Yeah, I
So,
know. I think it's about time Biden had one of those.
Yeah, I
so
don't know if you would
well,
pass.
all right. Well, Larry, tell us where are you at and what's going on today?
Yeah, so I am uh trying to get the video to not blur out because I think it's blurring out the background here.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I have the Capitol behind me. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
No, yeah, we see it. Yeah.
There you go. So I'm
Perfect.
outside. Cool. Figured this would be a nice change. Um, because I did the whole first week at the White House,
Oh, this will
but
be good. Yeah.
the rules here are a lot stricter. So
Uh,
uh, if you could see, there's not really anybody out here, and
Now,
most of the people are way over there.
uh,
I can't be over there. So
they won't
so
let you get any closer. That's as close as they're gonna let you get.
yeah, with like the signs and stuff.
Okay. Show us the signs.
Yeah. Well, it's on the ground right now. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, I assume it's the same one you had
Yeah,
that sandwich
had
board.
changed it a little bit.
yeah,
So,
active duty
Nice,
airman refuses
nice.
to eat while Gaza starves.
and I
So,
had a little arrow. Sorry, I didn't add it. Marshall added this, and I gave it to Marshall because I can no longer state publicly that I am all these things right here.
Uh,
So, so that is Marshall's sign. He's identifying me as active duty, which is allowed. Then on the back side here is my name, and then this is a quote here from Aaron Bushnell.
yes.
I refuse. So, the back of the sign is Larry, and your name is
Hey,
pronounced
Bear.
Hebert. Larry Hebert, I refuse to be complicit in genocide. And that was a quote from Aaron Bushnell.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So you're on day 8?
Day 9.
Day 9. Yeah.
Day 9.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Larry, I know we're going to repeat a lot of the questions you've had on other interviews, but I think it's important. Um, uh, First of all, what do you do? Why are you doing this? You're on a hunger strike. You're on your 9th day. Why?
Yeah. So, as you guys know from Marshall's sign over here, I'm active duty and in the Air Force. And we were the ones supplying the weapons to kill civilians. We're the ones, well, I mean, the U.S. is the one that imposes the diplomatic pressure to allow starvation of civilians, and um, and meanwhile, these are all breaking international and U.S. law, and the military is not supposed to be used to harm civilians like this, whether that be bombing them or starving them or destroying civilian infrastructure. So, you know, it kind of goes back to we could look back at like prior conflicts like Vietnam and Iraq, and a lot of people didn't want to participate in that because they knew it was bullshit. The whole premise to starting these conflicts. So that's basically where I'm at, except, instead of, being on the ground and holding a weapon, I'm part of the organization that just delivers the weapons.
So
Exactly.
you're being a cog in the wheel of illegal and unconstitutional
Exactly, yeah.
activities. And if I remember correctly, that oath of when you took your oath had something to do with the Constitution.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's a lot of our founding documents, and I mean, even like I said, the current U.S. laws,
Yeah.
I think are well intentioned, and just haven't been followed and abided by. Just being the government being for the people, by the people, and then people being given their natural born rights by God and not by any other state, which the U.S. I guess just doesn't agree with.
I guess it doesn't. So, I see that you're not in uniform. And I want to just go back to the sign because you had a little arrow on the sign pointing to your cohort, and you
Yeah,
said
they were pointing to me.
they've got okay.
Okay.
So he has to hold the sign, and the arrow is pointing to you. Why can't you hold the sign?
So I was ordered that I cannot state publicly, verbally or orally, or written or orally, that I am my status within the military or my rank.
Okay.
So even in interviews, I can't state what my status is and everything like that. But if they recognize me and address me as such, then I can acknowledge and state, which I'm stating now, my do not reflect the DoD or its components, such as the Department of the Air Force. So I gave the sign to Marshall here, and he is now holding it and showing other people who I am. He is recognizing
Great.
me, which is within the law.
How
Okay.
long have you and Marshall known each other?
Since 8 p.m. last night.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Well,
Well,
thanks
thanks
to
to Marshall.
Marshall for stepping up and supporting you like this.
Marshall.
There's a
Yeah.
thumbs up from Marshall. All right.
Yeah.
What are you wearing on your head for those who can't see this? Because it's going to be primarily audio. But what are you wearing?
Yeah, so I'm wearing a keffiyeh, partially because I love the keffiyeh, and it was
Mhm.
given to me by um, a Palestinian American who I highly respect and love, and I've gotten many other keffiyehs from people here too. But additionally, I got a sunburn while I was standing outside the White House, so
Mm.
trying to cover it up and hopefully not make it worse.
Yeah, I
All
hope you
right.
got some sunblock on today. Looks like another clear day up
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dual purpose. Dual purpose.
there.
All right. Last week you were out in front of the White House. How was the reaction there from the tourists? And well, we'll leave it at that. How was the reaction from the tourists? I used to work in D.C. I know there's constant traffic in front of the White House, or at least there was. So,
Yeah, it's still constant traffic. I'll probably end up moving back over there actually, um, because when I tried setting up here in front of the Capitol, they showed me what the rules are and where I can stand and what I could do, and
Mhm.
a lot more difficult because most people are, up by the Capitol.
Right.
I'm more away from it, so kind of prevents me from interacting with a lot of people. Uh,
Uh,
so I'll probably head back over to the White House, and that's just due to last week being surrounded and swarmed by people just with overwhelming support and being
mm,
able to really communicate with people. And I've had
mhm.
people come up that had no idea what was going on. So helping them,
Mhm.
uh, bring to light this situation was really interesting. And then very rarely I would have someone say something dumb or and walk by, but that was very rare. A
Yeah.
handful of times that happened.
let me
Yeah.
back up and follow up real quick. You said that you would help people understand what was going on. Now, did you mean what you were doing with your hunger strike and why? Or did you actually mean what's going on in Gaza?
Both.
Both.
Some people
Good Lord.
are, confused about what like Gaza is,
Mhm.
and what the conflict is. So I would explain, the general history. I'm not exactly a historian. I've
Yeah.
also just learned about this since October. Um, but I've read up on Norman Finkelstein and Abby Martin, Noah,
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter. So there's a lot of great resources out there. Um, and then yeah, they would come and ask me what I'm doing, as if my sign wasn't, you know, explicit enough.
Mhm.
So I would explain, I'm on a hunger strike in solidarity with the people of Gaza, and um, obviously trying to bring about a ceasefire and encourage other people to speak out as well.
I know in interviews that I've seen with you with Katie Halpert, you with Amy Goodman on Democracy Now, you mentioned that you were a little bit disgusted, or maybe a whole lot disgusted, that there wasn't any response to Aaron Bushnell, or not enough response to Aaron Bushnell's self-immolation.
Right.
Do you think?
Um,
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
It's on you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was um, very disgusted with the silence surrounding Aaron. There wasn't really any response at all. I can't think of a single. There was eventually a an email sent out to our command, but I believe it 2 or 3 weeks later. Um, that's too long, and it was devastating. I mean, only a few days after Aaron Bushnell self-immolated, um, people in Yemen and in Gaza were holding up his image and sending
Mhm.
their respects. And Hamas issued an official statement sending their condolences to him and his family. So I just don't see how Hamas has more time on their hands than our government with our own personnel.
Yeah,
Well, I think the message is how the message was received. This makes the difference.
Yeah,
that
hear
could
that.
be. So
But you would think someone giving their life, you at least owe them, at a bare minimum, acknowledging their stated purpose for what they did.
Yeah,
To me, uh, that was just beneath contempt, to not even mention, and not just the brass and the governmental figures, but the media.
yeah,
Their coverage of it was insulting.
yeah. I mean, even even with me, the coverage isn't. I'm getting a lot of coverage from other, independents,
Right.
sources, and um, just anything besides corporate media. But
Right.
did have interviews with the New York Times and NPR, which are bigger publications. But I have yet to see the articles that came out. So
Right.
I'm uh, I'm hoping it's just one of those things where the reporters tried their best to push the story and they got shot down. But yeah, hopefully they end up pushing that, because me and the New York Times had a very long and productive conversation. So
Yeah.
excellent.
On the
Because
cutting room floor right now, probably.
maybe.
yeah, probably.
Well, this won't be. Um, so I almost called you Aaron, but I won't do that again. All right. So Larry, um, where do you come from and why did you join the military?
Yeah, so I'm from New Hampshire, and I joined the military because I had met a lot of veterans who had told me that joining the military will set me up for life. And they all recommended join the Air Force. I said, don't bother with the Marines and the Army.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, so I mean that was the biggest thing, is when 40 different strangers at different points come up to you and say the exact same thing, you should probably take that advice. That's just how I thought.
What
And
resonated most with you when they were telling you all the benefits? It
yeah,
have
I
to
mean,
do with things like health insurance, housing, all the things that people in this economy in this country have to worry about.
right. Yeah, no, housing, education,
Yeah,
medical, all that. Yeah, that was all just sounded great. And then obviously my
yeah,
salary would be higher than it already was at that point too. So
yeah,
uh, it was just a win-win. And then also I had my wife was pregnant at the time, and I needed to support my family. So
yeah,
it was almost like a no-brainer at that point. And I'm not saying it didn't help me at all. Obviously I've made a very successful so far career out of it. But there's another side to it that you eventually have to come to terms with, and it's that our actions don't always reflect or come from a sense of morality or humanity, or even from a legal perspective. So, and you have to come to terms with that and say, are these benefits, is this money worth, killing and starving children, civilians?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just not for me. I value my humanity more than I value a paycheck. So,
Mhm.
Oh, very good. So how long were you in the military before you started to wonder why?
um, started to wonder what.
Wonder why, what's going on, or why did I join, or this isn't for me, or
Yeah,
start to question the mission that you're now protesting.
yeah. I mean, since I joined, I've never been a fan of the sort of rank structure. The promotional system is somewhat biased and almost fixed in a way. Um, and it's not. They're promoting people that do well more on tests than they do people who are better leaders, um, and that obviously has a dramatic impact on the lower ranks, such as where I'm at, E4 all the way down. Um, so I've always been sort of against that and not enjoyed that part of the military. But but obviously, since I learned about what's going on since October 7th, um, I've been against our foreign policy wholeheartedly. And um, you know, October 7th and learning about Gaza and Israel or Palestine, um, I started to get, you know, jump over into other wars as well, like Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam. And so seeing these other atrocities, I'm like, well, this has been fairly consistent with how the US conducts war. So I I'm just wholeheartedly against foreign policy right now.
Okay. Did you talk to your buddies, and you were stationed in, or you still are stationed in Rota, Spain, a Navy base by in any stretch of the imagination. But did you talk to any of your fellow service members about your feelings, and what was their reaction?
Um, yeah, I think there's a degree of fear, at least from me. I feel like other people may feel this as well. Speaking out against foreign policy is almost like asking to get reprimanded. So, um, yeah, I wasn't very vocal or public about it within my unit. I was definitely public on social media. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think I had maybe one conversation about Gaza. Someone asked me why, I was posting so much supporting um, or not supporting Israel and supporting the genocide or supporting the people of Gaza. And and I had to explain to them, like, you know, Gaza is 99% of Gaza by Israel's own estimates are civilians. And launching an entire assault and bombardment and just destroying all of their infrastructure and displacing over 85% of the population is just not justified. And I can't see how anyone could justify that.
Harvey, you wanted to ask about New Hampshire. You're on mute.
I was going to just ask if you'd heard from any folks back home, either family or friends, and if there's any coverage of what you're doing back there.
Yeah, so I won't be specific on who
Yeah.
in my family, but I've had some family members reach out with their disapproval and
Uh-huh.
say terrorist.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if they saw me right now wearing this keffiyeh, they'd probably think that, um, you know, especially if they get this image on Fox News that they're all in. So,
Yeah. Well,
that's
New Hampshire's pretty conservative spot, so
yeah.
yeah.
Hampshire as a whole is, fairly conservative, but once you get into, the cities and the seacoast, it's becoming
Yeah.
a little liberal. But
Yeah.
yeah, besides a couple of people within my family, not really many people have reached out.
Uh-huh.
I had WMUR from New Hampshire get that interview for me, so that was
Okay.
that was cool. I appreciate them for coming out.
Is that
Good
the
deal.
public radio there?
What was that?
Is that a public radio station there?
Uh, uh, public news network.
Like, yeah, like NPR type.
Yeah, I think so.
Uh-huh.
They had a story on it and everything. I'll see if I can send you the link after this.
Okay.
Very
All right,
specific.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
So, when you were at the White House, did anybody from the White House come out, or I mean, you're pretty much very close to everything. Did anybody from the State Department or come over and talk to you and give you the blues?
Nobody from the White House that I'm aware of. Um, and I did have one member of the State Department come talk to me, and me and him at first, he was very displeased with what I was doing, and was very, aggressive in his approach, but he wouldn't even shake my hand at first, and introduce himself. So, I had to really reason with him and get into, why I'm out there. And once I expressed that, I'm not out here for any political reasons. I'm here to help save civilian lives and get more people to speak up about the civilian lives that are, you know, being killed.
Mhm.
And once we had probably about a 10-minute conversation, and he at the end he did shake my hand, and he I think he wished me good luck. And so, there's definitely places where people can meet and see eye to eye, and recognize that um, there are crimes that are being committed against a civilian population, and that's not something that we have to try to politicize.
Very good.
Well, and I think especially with the hunger strike element, you're really raising to the awareness of the deliberate starvation of 2 million people.
Yeah.
So, one thing I'm curious about, since I was in the Navy, Harvey was in the Navy, but scheduling leave is it back 50 years ago, it wasn't that hard, but it wasn't that easy also. What planning did you go, and how much leave are you on?
Yeah, I didn't do crazy planning or anything. I had to take leave because regardless, because I was over my balance, my maximum balance. And so yeah, I had to take leave. And with the news coverage that was coming out around that time, it was that Gaza is on the verge of a mass famine. And I felt like the situation was becoming more and more dire. And in addition to what Aaron Bushnell did, and the lack of coverage surrounding it, and the lack of response from our leaders, I felt like it was like I had to do something. So I just immediately, booked the flight, and I took like 40 days or something, and
Wow.
yeah, and then just came out here.
Nice, nice. Uh, have you have you ever heard of moral injury?
Oral injury, no.
Moral injury is something that can be diagnosed, or reflective of service people who, um, while they may not be suffering from PTSD, are also feeling like, wow, this is not what I prepared for. This again goes against my moral upbringing. This
Yeah,
goes what I'm participating in, really kind of strikes at my core foundation of humanity.
right,
And so it's a recently diagnosed or recently identified kind of issue that a lot of military members, especially, but people in general right now are going through. And
The
so,
VA has recognized it as a specific diagnosis now. It took a while for that to happen.
yeah. So it, let me ask you this. Do you feel, and well, I'll put it in this perspective. When I joined the Navy in '68, it was kind of like join the Navy to avoid the Army and the Marines because my draft was coming up. They were going to
Mhm.
come get me. So my mother said, join the Navy. Fine. I did. I got a lot of promises. The promises were not kept by the recruiter, etc. And and I ended up, and the further I get away from it, the more I feel betrayed by the military, as far as what they were telling me they were going to do, what they did. And today you see um, all of the salute to service and the flyovers and the big flags. And I mean, even Coach K from Duke I saw him over the weekend giving this, wear this uniform. It's not just about your name. It's about, where you're from and on this. And I'm going, oh my God. Because when you get into the military, from my perspective, it's not about the country. It's about you being a tool of the military industrial complex. And even back 50 years ago, that became pretty obvious pretty quick.
Yeah.
So you feel about the same way, or?
Yeah, I mean, when I joined, I genuinely thought I was going to be upholding um, some sort of values and um, being um, I guess what do you call it? A a line of defense for people's freedoms and prosperity. Um, I was completely in the dark about the extent and willingness to harm civilians. I thought we were primarily just targeting military infrastructure, and thank you, appreciate it. Do you want a flyer? She has flyers over here. Sorry, getting some support.
Nice.
Excellent.
And and yeah, so I was just in the dark about the Iraq, Afghanistan. It wasn't something I was even vaguely interested in because I just assumed that the United States was handling it with the utmost care, and I I found out it just wasn't true.
This wasn't true.
Well, it would be easy to get that impression just consuming what you see in this culture and
Yeah.
when the military is portrayed.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to go back to Aaron Bushnell, and your feelings about his self-immolation. In military.com, um, there was an article, and they quoted uh, Chief of Staff General David Alvin, and he said during an event at the Brookings Institution, the think tank in Washington, D.C., that the service was investigating the airman's suicide. Um, Suicide? He did end up killing himself, but this is to me, this is not suicide. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the legal definition of suicide. So I have no idea, but obviously, um, he died as a result of his protest. Whether they call that suicide, I don't know if they can, within the legal definition of it. But Yeah, I think there's definitely a strong stance to use specific verbiage in order to sort of form the narrative. I mean, reporters do this all the time, and the military is no different, nor is our government. Just like how they label certain organizations terrorists, and they just have specific gripes that they just want their country back, like Hamas, and so it's hard to dance around it. They just like to dance around the topic and just not address, which is Aaron Bushnell had a serious, just like many of us do, a serious issue with our foreign policy, and especially the crimes that we are committing, and the laws we are just completely ignoring.
Okay. When are you going to go back to Rhoda?
Soon, I'll say that.
All right.
It will be soon. I don't have infinite leave, so and I don't feel like breaking any laws or anything like that, because the way I've went about this has been fairly tame and smart, and I think they'll feel that way as well. And so I don't think anything bad is really going to come out of this. And hopefully, when I go back, we can talk about that more with my command.
Oh, before I forget, um, where do you get your news?
Sorry.
Where do you get your news? Because there's been a big issue related to TikTok, and the Congress is worried that all you young people are getting your news from, oh my God, TikTok, and
Yeah.
so that's why there is such a wellspring of support for the Palestinian cause. So where do you
Right.
get your news?
Yeah. So that is where I get my news. I get it from TikTok, Instagram, all the social media apps that I have Facebook. And it is kind of funny that they're worried about TikTok, because it's the only major social media that isn't controlled by the U.S.
Right.
And hold on one sec. We have flyers over here too, if you'd like one. Yeah, and you can take a card as well.
Said I was going to come to the eclipse because I knew the Senate was in session. I figured the one time they would actually come out of the building when I would be here to give my thoughts on the whole war
Okay.
today, and I get to see the eclipse too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But
More support.
Yeah.
Don't let us interfere with your outreach there. We can
No, you're
be part of our show.
Yeah, so I just think it's funny that they're scared of TikTok, because many news networks that are on every other platform are also on TikTok. They're not spreading a different message or spreading the same message. And a lot of the imagery and videos coming out of TikTok are not vastly different than what we see on Instagram. I'm on Instagram just as much as I am on TikTok now,
Yeah.
and I'm getting the same coverage. So,
But that's not the coverage you're going to get from Fox or NBC or ABC or MSNBC.
Right. You're not going to get it from corporate media. But additionally to, these news networks, like Al Jazeera and let's see, TRT. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but there's a lot of different networks that are on media and do a great job and really give good representation without trying to seem biased. And I think ultimately what the government is truly upset about is the fact that well, obviously they can't control TikTok, or they have no current control, but also they can't stop certain images from coming out, seeing the consequences of their actions. And they don't want Americans to know the consequences of our actions. They just want Americans to, just go about their day to day. We'll handle things. We're the government. And we see a lot of ground coverage in Gaza. And, when you're seeing that much footage of immense injuries, the devastation of civilian infrastructure, the starvation, the death. It's extremely difficult to view that sort of media and be still siding with, yeah, let's do more.
Right.
So and that's what it was for me, and for a lot of people. And I think that's why there's obviously a lot more people that are aware and speaking up, because we're seeing what's actually happening here, and we can recognize that this is wrong by every metric. And the U.S., as the U.S. does, wants it to be hush hush, and hopefully more people don't know.
Exactly. So where do you go from here? I mean, what's your next steps? I've heard you're thinking about conscientious objection.
Yeah. So ultimately, I have to go back to my command and talk to them and see what we can make happen. I think the biggest thing for me would be an honorable discharge. I would love to just get out. And secondly, I would be open to a reassignment, whether that's working with like a chaplain or something like that. I think I would be open to that. And then obviously I'll have to fall back on my CO application if either of those don't go through. But they're going to do what they're going to do at the end of the day. I just have to sort of balance what I'm going to do off of that.
Yeah.
How's your wife feel?
Good. She misses me.
I bet.
Thank God.
Good. So what would you tell people? What would you tell more young people that are considering joining the military?
Don't.
Okay.
Period.
Just don't. And is it okay if we try and keep up with you? Because we'd like to follow along and, oh, I know. What about if your hunger strike does not generate the interest that you want? What do you want us to do? What about if it doesn't have the impact that you're looking for? What are you going to do then? And what do you want us to do?
If my impact doesn't have what I like, the outcome I want,
Yeah.
I honestly think it already has. I think I've accomplished a lot of the goals that I was hoping for, and I have no gripes about how this is happened. One of my biggest goals was to get more people to speak out, and I've been reached out to just over the last few days by close to a dozen active duty personnel. So
Okay.
that's and a lot more aren't even going through me. They're going straight to GI Rights Hotline and talking about getting out conscience objector. So this has ultimately been one of the main goals, and it's succeeded. Obviously, I want that ceasefire, but I knew that it was very, very unlikely. So, but I'm going to continue on with my hunger strike regardless, and hopefully it encourages more to get out, and maybe that'll have the collateral effect to push for a ceasefire.
So two things you mentioned: the GI rights hotline. You don't happen to have the number right offhand, do you? I'll look it.
Not
I'll look
Anybody,
it up. No problem. I'll look
anybody
it.
can, yeah,
Yeah,
Google
you
that.
can just search GI rights hotline. And
also uh, for conscientious and warfare. I think that's their other name.
okay. And to say that again.
It's the CCW
Okay.
Center on
For conscience and war.
Warfare. Yeah.
Okay. And I'll
Yeah.
look that up too. Now you're not going to continue your hunger strike on the way back to Rhoda or at Rhoda, are you?
I don't have the plan to, but if more progress doesn't start happening, I may consider it.
Yeah.
I'm not definite on anything yet, so just kind of going day by day and seeing how my body holds up.
So what I'm seeing is you're you seem in very good spirits.
Yeah.
And that, being without food for 9 days, that's incredible. And so you really should be admired for what you're doing and the stance you're taking. And it just that it well, it might be nice. It might be good to be young again, right, Harvey? Because we can't go nine hours without something to eat.
Yeah.
Well,
So, um, so
so
how are your spirits?
Um, in Spain, they were down because you're not surrounded by people that are openly feeling the same way you are. But since I've been here in DC, I've been just swarmed by positivity and people of good values and morals that have more integrity than a lot of our government and military. So that's ultimately what's driving a lot of this. And yeah.
and I heard that you had visited several representatives or senators' offices also during your time in DC. How did those go?
I've spoken to some congressmen, in passing, and most of them Republicans that just want to say the same thing they say on TV, which is that they support Israel unconditionally. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and Israel has the right to defend itself. And there's no moving them off of their media training. That's just where they're stand, and they're that's just how it is. And it's not shocking when you know these people are taking money from the organization they're supporting, and yeah,
They don't seem to be able to utter the word Palestinian.
yeah, they're not a fan of that.
Hamas.
Yeah, Mas.
Us. So we've tried to ask a lot of questions, but what did you want to say? What did you want to get across that we haven't had a chance to come up with the right question to generate that?
Free Palestine. That's all I got.
I love it.
I mean, there's not much else. It's just what's happening makes no sense, and more people that even civilians, even more civilians have to be speaking out and going to their representatives' district offices um, and sort of that in your face protest that they can't ignore. They can ignore your calls, they can ignore your emails, but being out there and being able to physically see you, that's something they can't ignore. And so it's been working here in DC, and
Yeah.
something that needs to, I think, ramp up is definitely people within their own communities organizing and going to their local district offices, as well as the places where these weapons are being created and shipped from, which I'm not going to explicitly state where, but those organizations are fairly well known, and some of them happen to be, under the DoD. So I will let the public figure that out.
That's right. There's only so much freedom of speech that you're allowed while you're still in the military.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea that your clear moral stance would have any impact on uh, our political class is understandably you would have low expectations. But to me, what's significant is if we are a democracy, it's not just the military that's responsible for this. It's the voters, it's the taxpayers who are
Right.
funding all this. And on some level, I think people who have an active conscience are going to, perhaps be more likely to do some self-examination on that and to speak out. And I think that's the wonderful thing about what you're doing, is you're demonstrating the kind of moral commitment that is lacking, unfortunately, in so many ways in this culture, which, we're just such a individualistic culture, and people are, not encouraged to come together in any uh, purpose other than maybe, private equity or something. I mean, the idea of coming together with something is not just purely self-interest, goes against the grain of our
Yeah.
culture. So you're a powerful example of what people can do, and I think we all owe you a debt of gratitude for the courage to do what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that it's really in peace. And by the way, you're a member of Veterans for Peace now, right?
Yeah, welcome to the fold.
Thanks.
It's all of a sudden, our average age drops significantly. So,
There you
well, that's excellent. So, Larry, any last words? I mean, any
go.
last words for the show?
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's good talking to you. And my phone is about to die. So
Okay, I think your great work.
Yeah.
take care. Appreciate it.
Peace. Bye. That worked. Woo.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I don't think I'm going to
He
have.
seems so calm, and he just seems like he's at peace with what he's doing. He's doing something that means a lot to him, no matter what it means to anybody else.
Exactly. I mean, and that's why I asked. I mean, he's he's totally at peace with himself. He's feeling good. Like he said, he was feeling bad when he was in Spain. But now being here and being surrounded by people that are of like mind, who have at least have the possibility of being of like mind.
Yeah. Well, it's always good for me to be reminded by people uh, like Larry, especially that age cohort, that generational cohort, that just because it's you're not hearing anything on ABC, NBC, on cable, the people who are out there trying to make a difference right now, they're communicating with each other, and Instagram, TikTok, and the other social media.
Yeah. I mean,
And the government is just frantic about that. They're doing their
Oh, yeah.
best to shut it down.